I remember when I went back to work on Desperado at Columbia Pictures on the Sony lot, we ended up finding out we had offices right next to each other.
Yeah.
You were writing Pulp Fiction at that time.
You got a corpse in a car, minus a head in a garage. Take me to it.
How did you come up with Pulp Fiction? Because it fascinates me how you came up with the structure. You thought originally to do it as short films that you could just shoot.
I thought about the idea, oh, you know, why don't I do this as like an anthology with like different directors and stuff? And I was friends with Tony Scott at the time, and I was always a huge admirer, as we both are. He had done True Romance. So I proposed to him and his partner at the time, Bill Unger. I go, what if we do a thing we call Pulp Fiction? I'll write one of the stories, I can write another story, Tony could do one, and I'll write a third one, and we get another director to do another one. And they were like, wow, that's great, let's do that. So I started working on one. And I did have the basic idea that would be Vincent Vega and Marcellus Wallace's wife, that story. And so I thought, well, you know, I could write that, and then we could go out and do that as a short film, and that would be kind of cool, shoot it on 16 millimeter. So I did have that kind of idea. And when I had that idea of doing it as a short film, I wanted to possibly do it with Roger Avery, who was a good friend of mine at the time. And he was also working in one of the video stores, and I really liked his writing. We encouraged each other. So Roger, why don't you come up with a story of your own? And he came up with like the Butch Coolidge story, the boxer story. He didn't have the gold watch speech in there. He had a gold watch, but he didn't have the speech or the reason why the gold watch was so important.
Now, little man, I give the watch to you.
I like the cliche aspect of it. I wanted the storylines to be cliches. The boxer's supposed to throw the fight and doesn't.
Right.
The hood that's supposed to take out Mr. Big's maul, or look but don't touch. Right. You're just the beard. And then like what happens? Then I started kind of thinking about the idea of them not being separate one-offs. Making it so maybe some characters can overlap.
Right.
And not in a gimmicky kind of way, but it just all take place in the same world. You know, and a character who could be the lead of one story could just be a small part in the other, and vice versa.
Right.
And the more I started thinking about really kind of tying them in together, even though the three stories would be separate, the more I said, no, I really need to have one hand take care of this. So I had to call Tony. Oh, yeah, I've decided I think this is going to be my next movie. And so then I went off to Amsterdam to write it.
Get a load of this, all right? If you get stopped by a cop in Amsterdam, it's illegal for them to search you. I mean, that's the right the cops in Amsterdam don't have.
Oh, man, I'm going.
I love the evolution of an idea like that because it ended up being such a groundbreaking movie. I mean,
but to me, it wasn't really a whole lot different than, like, say, Mario Bava's Black Sabbath, which is like, you know, 3 horror stories. We did one of those, 4 rooms. There have been things like that before, but never like three separate crime stories. That was unique. And the idea that like the 3 separate stories could end up telling one story. Well, that had never really been done before to that degree. And it's, you know, and it still is. I mean, it's actually the best compliment because it really is an anthology. It's 3 separate stories. No one looks at it that way anymore. Or even then, they all looked at it as one big unified piece. But that's kind of hard to do. But it actually is 3 separate stories.
It seems so new. I mean, it was new. At the time, somebody, a friend of yours, I don't remember, it was a producer friend or an actor, somebody asked you, okay, after they saw the movie. So when John Travolta, so he's still dead though, right? They had just never seen.
Yeah, no, it's like, yeah, he's dead, right? And I go, well, of course he's dead. That wasn't a dream sequence. Of course he's dead. I mean, you know where you are, all right? You're back in the scene that you were at earlier. Now you're just going further with it.
And it was a, wow.
But it was a big leap to ask them to do. And not everyone quite got it at the time, but most people did. There might get a little moment of confusion, but then they, oh, okay, I guess we're just back where we were at the beginning. Yeah, yes, you are. I mean, one of the things that was actually really exciting about watching the movie, I was always ahead of them in Pulp Fiction. They're in the entire running time for the most part.
Right.
If you stopped watching Pulp Fiction after the first hour, you know, you didn't even really see the movie. Like, it takes an hour for it to really get going, or for it to really revealing itself. There was this neat thing that happened with audiences every time, and I watched it with a lot of audiences. The movie would start in that cafe with Tim Roth and Amanda Plummer, Pumpkin and Honey Bunny. Then it would go into the John Travolta, Sam Jackson part, then the John Travolta, Uma Thurman part, and then the boxer comes into it with Bruce Willis, and then we go back in time, and now it's Jules and Vincent again, and all that goes on. And little by little, you forget about Pumpkin and Honey Bunny. and it's going on, and I've been ahead of you the entire time. Then when you cut to the exterior of the coffee shop, before you go in the coffee shop, even though you never saw the exterior in the opening scene, the audience had caught up.
Wow, that's great.
And they knew, oh, that's what he's gonna do.
Wow.
Those two guys, the guy and the girl, the British guy and girl from the beginning, they're gonna be there. Oh my God. And it was this kind of thing where it's like, you son of a bitch. I haven't understood how you're telling this story from the very beginning. But now, it's taken me this long, but now I get it.
Right.
Now I know, for the first time, I know what you're gonna do.
I've heard you a few times say, if I do my job right, I'll be able to play the audience like a fiddle right here, because you really are tuned into what they will like.
I've always been pretty attuned. I've always considered myself a part of the audience. So I don't like second guess it as far as like, I'm gonna smarten it up or dumb it down or do anything to get an unnatural response. I know how I feel when I'm being jerked around. And it's fun. And I do like jerking them around a little bit. And it's pretty easy.
What do you make of all this?
Man, I don't even have an opinion.
Well, you gotta have an opinion. I mean, do you think that God came down from heaven and stopped them?
Audiences didn't even realize how attuned they had got to the contrivances of movies because they were so used to it. So you could use that against them. You could leave the breadcrumbs that would indicate that you were going to go the way all the other films had gone. And then all of a sudden you make a quick left turn, and they're not prepared for that. They didn't even know that they were anticipating what was going to happen next, but they were. And so then you use their own knowledge against them. And that's exciting. Now all of a sudden the storytelling is infused with something. Now you can't predict it. I thought you were going to, I never thought that guy would die. Or I know that guy's a goner. Oh no, he's not a goner. All right, oh my God, the hero just killed that person? And the innocent people are dying and the hero doesn't care and they're just like cracking jokes and they're moving on? Who is this guy? What's going on?
The palm door. Goes to Pulp Fiction.
Then all of a sudden I went in the palm door. And literally they left a message like, well, I was actually going to get a little tough with you. But I guess we can forget that. What the hell do I know?
What the hell?
I've only made one movie too.
What the hell did anybody know at that time? It really changed movies, because I was still at Columbia. And I remember the executives, when that movie did what it did, they came and they went. It was like when Easy Rider had come out, and suddenly the studios felt like dinosaurs. They were like, we're trying to make movies for youth. That's a youth film. That's what people are into. And we don't know how to do that. There's nothing else coming out, even on our schedule, that's even remotely like that, except maybe Desperado.
Yeah, right.
Because I had already shot you in it.
Yeah, right.
But that was it. There was nothing. So it was really turned the industry, and audiences were exhilarated to go to the cinema again, and they weren't going to see anything like that till your next movie.